Professor David Monyae is an Associate Professor of Political Science and International Relations at the University of Johannesburg, and he joins us to weigh in on this. Professor, it's great to have you with us on the show. Good afternoon. So what do you make of these latest developments on the India-Pakistan ceasefire that seemingly is not holding, as the latest reports are actually indicating that the conflict is continuing in some areas?
Yeah, quite disturbing, but at the same time, one would understand it takes time for wars of this nature to stop the guns, the silencing the guns. I think it takes time. I hope by tomorrow or so, a message will have filtered into all corners of both India as well as Pakistan administered Kashmir. And it's also, at the same time, a message to all of us. The nature of wars these days, I mean, it's getting more intense, the use of technology and the danger of starting them. I think it's so easy to start wars, but to end them, it takes time.
Absolutely, Professor. I mean, the newly installed Pope Leo there has also called for ceasefires in all warring countries, namely Israel and Gaza, Ukraine, as well as Russia. Let's talk about these nations, Prof, starting with Israel and Gaza. The Pope there also calling for the immediate release of those Israeli hostages. What do you make of this undertaking?
I think it's a balanced view expressed by the Pope. We join people, billions of people all over the world in congratulating the Pope. But having said that, I think we also call upon to the Pope to not forget the African continent. We have thousands of Africans dying in Sudan and the Great Lake region, Goma in particular, Eastern Congo. And I think it is important to ensure that Africa is also centered in global hotspots. But it's a clear message to warring parties all over the world that the international community see a negotiated way out as the only best route, something that South Africa, the African Union, has been calling for in Ukraine, as well as in other parts of the world, including our own continent.
And on the Russian-Ukrainian front, Professor, the latest reports also indicating that Russia actually launched a drone attack on Kiev despite Putin's call for talks. So let's talk about this.
Russian and Ukrainian leadership, it appears that this conflict has lots and lots of people who don't want it to stop. I think the African delegation to both Ukraine and Russia made it quite clear that the best way out is a negotiated way of silencing the guns and ensure that the international community is involved in assisting a peaceful resolution to the conflict. But as it stands, there are so many parts, particularly in Europe, with their own reasons, but fueling the conflict, extending more weapons, and the endless talk of war does not assist at a time when there is a need to stop the war first, the battles, and sit around the table and discuss and find a long-lasting solution to the crisis.
And speaking of fueling conflict and people who don't want it to stop, Professor, interesting though that there's an undertone of some sort of US influence in some of these conflicts. Shouldn't the global community be at all concerned?
I think we have seen changes taking place in Washington. As much as Africa might have disagreements with President Donald Trump, but when it comes to Russia, Ukraine, it appears that the views of President Trump, President Ramaphosa, and the rest of the African Union, their position appear to be converging. That is, stop the bloody war. So many people are dying unnecessary. I think on that, it's a question of seizing the moment. But other partners of Ukraine appear prepared to ensure that war continues. And that is quite disturbing, given the fact that Ukraine has no opportunity, has no chance to stand and defend itself with such a powerful country such as Russia. It is an unnecessary, senseless war, and one is not taking sides. Both parties need to really think seriously of stopping this war immediately.
But what's of a concern to me, Professor, is also Trump's silence on Israel actually reneging on the initial ceasefire deal between, of course, Israel as well as Gaza. And then he went again on the issue of India and Pakistan. Firstly, he said the United States had nothing to do with what was going on in those two countries. And then a day later, he wants to take credit for the fact that he brokered that ceasefire.
There are a lot of contradictions, ambiguities, and double talk, which appears to be coming from all parties. I think at the end of the day, the Israeli-Gaza war, massacre, genocide, that's what it is, and it's going to really carry a dark chapter on the UN and the international community, that when all the guns are silenced, the world will look back and say, why did we allow this to take place? I think we need to go back to this two-state solution, ensure that Israel lives in peace with an independent Palestinian state. But as it stands, it appears that Netanyahu and lately President Donald Trump appear to think of a new way of displacing Palestinians further and making Gaza a holiday resort of some sort, which is unacceptable in international law, and it needs to be condemned by all peace-loving people in the world.